Hello class, this is our third video. It's good to see you guys again. So announcements or news. Last week there was a DDoS or hacking attack on our school's website. So I usually do not extend deadlines, but I extended the deadline for the first assignment, the introduction, because there was a problem with the website, so I want to give everybody a chance. Today I read a lot of your exposition writing papers, and they were really great and interesting to read. I can see that you guys, watched the video and understood what was happening, and a lot of people were really creative with the writing, and that was exactly what I was hoping. You're just gonna be creative and try to write as much as you can, so I'm very happy with that assignment. For this type of assignment, my feedback is going to be very short and not going to contain much, because the goal of this assignment is not about grammar or vocabulary. It's just about using your imagination and writing a little bit extensively in English. It's the goal is to push yourself to write a little bit longer in English than you might be used to doing. So in the future, I'm going to give different types of assignments, and some of these I might give more detailed feedback. Like there might be maybe even next week we're going to focus on spoken. It'll be a spoken assignment, and I will have a focus on pronunciation, so I might give some feedback on pronunciation and things like that. So again, it just depends on the assignment that we do. Next week's assignment is going to require that you have the book, so make sure that you get it. You're going to have to read a section of the book, and then you're going to have to try to have good pronunciation as you're reading it. So make sure you get the book in the English version, not the Korean version. If you're having trouble with that, then let me know, but I think you should be able to find it without too much trouble. Okay, so a review of last week. What did we do? We started the first chapter, and we saw that the first Christians in Korea had a difficult time. There were killings of Christian people. At that time, not so much foreigners. I mean, although that did happen, it was mostly Korean Christians who were being killed at that time. And then we saw that Korea was kind of forced to open up, and this allowed more Christian missionaries to go to Korea in the late 1800s. And then we learned about James Adams, and Baird, who helped spread Christianity in Daegu. Remember, Baird was married to Adams' sister, and he was the one that started Songshil University. And these guys are both pretty influential people in Korea's history as far as Christianity and Western education goes. We also learned about the Jejungwon in Daegu and the Miguk Yakbang. This will be kind of repeated in the other chapters of the book, so we're going to hear about this again, but we'll save that for another video. So my goal in this video is to finish up the history of KMU's founding, pretty much up till now, and we're going to look at some pictures of early Korea and the life of the Adams family in Korea. So, this book, I feel a little. Remember, this is my first time teaching the class, and I have found that I'm a little frustrated with the book because I have so many questions and so many things I'm curious about, but the book just is kind of lacking in details. So, what I did was I tried to research more about the Adams family in Korea, and I was able to find basically a Christian website that's run in the US, and it's a historical site of the missionaries that have gone all over the world. Uh, and they had a section of the Adams family because I guess within the Christian missionaries history of in America, they're a little bit of they're important figures in that history because they did a lot in Korea, and now Korea has a lot of Christian people. So I guess that was a pretty big deal if you really think about the history of Christianity in the world. The fact that they really helped to spread it in Korea, and now Korea has a pretty big Christian population. You could actually say that they had a lot of impact on the world. Anyway, my point is there was this cool website, and the wife of Edward Adams, took so many pictures, like hundreds of pictures of early Korea. So I had a lot of fun checking out all the pictures that she took. So I want to show you guys some of these pictures. I'm sure you've seen pictures of early Korea, but as far as, you know, early Daegu, I don't think there were a lot of people taking pictures at that time. You have to understand, she was one of the first Westerners to come to Korea, and she was probably one of the few people in Korea at that time that had a camera. So I was pretty amazed. She took so many pictures. It's pretty impressive. I'll maybe share a link with you guys if you want to check out all the pictures. But just for me, I was very interested because it's like hundreds of pictures, and it's all about Gyeongju and Busan and all this cool stuff about early Korea. So we're going to take a look at some of those. And then at the end of the video, I'll introduce our assignment for this week. I think this one is easier than last week. I don't think this will take much time for you. This is pretty a simple one, so um, just do it and you'll be good. So let's go on. Okay, so here's what we know, and it's kind of repeating the information again, but I just want to kind of make sure that we understand it. So there was the Adams family. The first Adams to come to Korea in the late 1800s was Edward Adams. Okay? He had 5 children. Okay? We're going to learn a little bit more about that later, but the Adams that has the most to do with our university, Kmus University, is actually James Adams. He's the son of Edward Adams. Okay? He was the one that helped to start Kmus University and was actually the president of Kmus University for a few years. Yeah. Okay. So the book does not have too many details about his life, but I have to imagine that he had a pretty interesting life. The son the son of Edward. Yes. Okay. I'm sorry. Yeah, because he was only 2 months old when he came to Korea, and he basically grew up in Korea with his parents, and then he saw the Japanese come into Korea, and he saw the bad things that happened with that, and then he also did go back to America for some time. I don't have details about that. I wish I did. I was very curious about exactly what happened, but it's not clear from the book, and it was not clear from the website either. Okay, okay, let's keep going. So again, this is what I wanted to tell you guys. Okay, so the first Adams was James Adams. Okay, made a mistake. It was not Edward. Edward is the guy who helped build Kmu. That's Edward. James was the first one. So this was incorrect. I made a little mistake here. Okay. The first Adams was James Adams. He was born in 1867 and he died in 1929. He was a devout Christian, and after graduating university, he became a minister. And just so you guys know, this is from that Christian website that I was talking about. This is not from our book. This is from the Christian website. He, in America, he married a Christian woman, and her brother was Baird and was working in Korea. So it seems like she said to James, why don't we go work with my brother who lives in this new country that we don't know about called Korea. So they had two children at the time. One was Edward, who we know helped build Kmu University. He was only 2 months at the time, and then they moved to Korea. And they had two more kids while living in Korea. So James Adams, his wife had two more kids, but after the fourth child, she died in Korea. And then he decided to marry another Christian woman in America, I guess. It's not clear what happened. I think he went back for a little bit to America, and then he came back again. But I'm not really sure what happened. But anyway, he married another woman, and he had two more kids. So that must have been tough for Edward, right? Because his mom died, and then he has a new mom and all this stuff. So Edward had a pretty tough life growing up in Korea, I think. Okay, so James, the father, left Korea in 1925, but three of his children decided to stay and work in Korea as missionaries, and I'm pretty sure these were the three kids from the first marriage. All right. It's not clear from what I read, but Edward Adams did not live his whole life in Korea. I guess at some point he went back to the US to study, but he came back to Korea in 1920. So that was something I was really curious about as I was reading the book. I tried to look on the Christian website. I couldn't find it either. I'm very like, how much time did he really live in Korea? I know he grew up as a little boy in Korea, and we're even going to see pictures of him. But at some point, he did go back to America to finish his studies. So, I'm not exactly sure what happened. Maybe when he was like a teenager, maybe he went back to America and then kind of just finished his studies all the way to like a PhD in theology, because he was like a doctor. So, and then he came back, okay, as a man, and he was married when he brought his wife, okay, to Korea. Okay, so he married in Korea before he married in America before he came back to Korea, and he served as the president of KMU for 5 years before retirement. We'll talk about that later. Okay. He retired from working in 1963 and died 2 years later in 1965 when he was 70 years old. So, except for the short time that he went back to America to study and meet his wife, this guy, Edward Adams, pretty much spent his whole life in Korea. So, that was a pretty interesting life, I think. It's not mentioned in the book, but Edward had two brothers who also did a lot of work in Korea as well. One brother worked more in Andong. He was starting a church and he was a missionary there. And he left Korea in 1930 after working for 7 years. But his other brother worked in Korea from 1932 until 1959, so almost 30 years. And from what I read, this brother, after he was done in Korea, he then moved to Japan and lived 15 more years. So I think it's a very interesting family. They did. Their family was living all over Asia and doing so many interesting things and starting universities and all this stuff. So, pretty cool family, I guess. Um, okay, so I have some cool pictures here. Like I said, I went to I found this website, and these are all from Adams's wife. So Edward Adams's wife really loved taking photos. So again, there's like hundreds here, but let's check some. Okay, so this is Benjamin Adams. So this is actually Edward's brother. This is them going from Daegu to Andong. And then it's kind of funny because at that time they spelled Daegu as Teku. I don't know why, but look at this picture. I thought this was really interesting. Huh? Look at that. They got a car, and then look at the road. It's really dirty. And then seems like these little boys were super shocked, probably. First of all, to see a car. That was probably kind of rare. And then see these foreigners. Look at them. They're like, what the hell is going on? So a really cool photo, I think. I really like this part. Look at this. This boy is like really young, and he's even doing obuba for his little baby brother. Pretty funny. Okay. This was really interesting. This I thought was really cool. So obviously I'm not going to read this whole thing, but this is a 6-page letter that Adams wrote to the church back in America, and he was basically talking about what was going on in Korea at the time. And this was like, what was this? 1938. Okay, so uh, I'll just give you a overview of what happened, but basically he's talking about how um, they're having a tough time. So if you remember in the last video, I said I was really curious about what happened to Christians during the Japanese occupation, and he writes here that things were tough. Okay, like he was writing how he used to have thousands of members coming to the church meetings, but these days there are barely any. And he said that he visited a very isolated mountain village. But even in the mountain village, you can kind of read it. Maybe I'll show you because this was very interesting. Did I mess it up? Okay, so okay, he traveled to this isolated town in a very high up mountain village, and he said that even in this small mountain village, there is a kamitami, which is a Japanese shrine in a Korean house. And then he said this one is brought forcibly to realize how extensively the nationalizing process is being carried out. So this was really interesting. This kind of shocked me because what this says is that even in the very, very isolated mountain village, there was the Japanese shrine. So just how much the Japanese culture was being forced on the Korean people, even in the really isolated area. So I was really shocked to read that. And then again, it's all kind of about tough times. Like things were not going well. A lot of people were sick. A lot of people were dying because they were forced to move out of their homes and all this stuff. So yes, tough times. it's hard to read. Like if you found this, it's not clear, but I was able to read it. But anyway, it was very interesting to read this. Okay, so a little bit more. Miss Pollard's school in Daegu. Again, I like the way she spells it in this. This is the wife of Edward. Tae-ku. Okay. April 2nd, 1918. Wow. This is when World War One was happening. So this was a school that they made in Daegu. I think this is a women's school, right? Look at all the women going there. Looks pretty cool, huh? It's almost like a Western house with mixed with Korean, right? Pretty cool. Okay, look at Daegu, huh? I think these are so cool. Okay, let's keep going. So she took a trip to Gyeongju, and these were the notes she made. She said, "Tower for astronomical observation at ancient Gyeongju." So I always forget the name of this thing. Chomsamdae? Sorry, guys. I'm embarrassed. I should know the name of this thing. I've seen it, several times. But look at Gyeongju, right? I'm sure a lot of you have been here. There's a lot more stuff there now, I feel, right? But this feels very like barren, like nothing's there, right? Um, what's this? Let's see. Graves of the ancient kings at Gyeongju. This is another thing I've seen. I have a picture like this too. And jade flutes. So a couple flutes. And then, yeah, modern memorial of ancient site at Gyeongju. Okay, so she liked to go to Gyeongju. This is Edward Adams and his son. So his son also stayed in Korea for a long time, and he left in the 1970s or something like that, from what I heard. Daegu Station, isn't this cool? So now she's changing the spelling again. Daegu Station around 1917. So she's kind of introducing all the people in the photo. I guess these were all of the missionaries that were coming to Korea, and they had kind of a meeting together. Pretty cool, right? A lot of kids that grew up in Korea. At this time, people liked having a lot of kids, so I guess that makes sense. But man, I would love to talk to some of these people. I'm sure they're like dead now, but I would love to hear their story. What was it like living in Korea at this time? Okay, a few more pictures. This was cool too. This says former head of the Korea something clan. I don't know what it is exactly. So, Sho descendant of Shoguki. I don't know what this is. Maybe he's some kind of like Yangban of something. I don't know. Anyway, I thought that was cool. This is interesting. Original head of the church at Chilgok. So he was like one of the first Moksanims of a church in Chilgok, right? Look at this guy. Pretty cool, right? Oh, this I thought was really interesting. The road from Daegu to Busan in the early days. Look at this road. This is going from Daegu to Busan. Can you imagine? This is what you had to travel if you were going to go to Busan. Pretty crazy, right? And then in the background you can see this big, I don't know what it is, temple or something. So I don't know about you guys, but these photos I thought were so interesting and so cool. This is the Adams family going down the road from Daegu going to Busan. So they're taking some trip to Busan. This picture is a little bit not so nice, I thought, because look at her. She's just being carried by the Korean people. This photo kind of made me feel like maybe they were not treating Korean people well. I don't know, but I don't know. This photo I thought was a little bit not so good. hopefully the man is walking, right? Maybe Edward maybe is walking, but maybe the wife was too tired, so they had to carry her. But yeah, another interesting photo, right? Okay, just a few more. So here is, I believe, I think this is Edward Adams, when he was just a little baby, with a couple Korean people. Um, this is a meeting of all the Christian missionaries in Daegu. It's a lot of them, a lot of people. Pretty interesting. I had no idea there were so many foreigners at this time. I don't, pretty shocked. What does this say? This is Pyongyang. Okay, so this is in Pyongyang. I guess they took a trip up to Pyongyang because remember, Baird was up there. So this is Pyongyang something, 4 and something. But this is the school in Pyongyang. So look at all of these foreigners in Pyongyang, right? Pretty crazy. When you think that now Pyongyang is the home of Kim Jong-un, right? Okay, just a few more pictures. I thought this is another cool one, like a old, would you call this a hanokjip, with all the foreign people there having a big get together. Okay. Another similar photo. Daegu Women's Bible Class, 1917. Okay, so a lot of people here. So, this is interesting because remember we talked about in the last video, were there a lot of Christians during the Japanese occupation? Looks like there's a lot, right? There's a lot of Christians at this time. So these are all women. These are all the women of Daegu at the time. Pretty amazing, right? Nobody's smiling. I guess people didn't smile in photos at that time. No smiling. But okay. Anyway, cool. Pretty cool photo in my opinion. Okay, just a couple more. I know you're getting bored, maybe. 1928. I don't know what this is exactly. Oh, I thought this was cool too. The one of the first Christian government high schools. Evangelist to government high school girls. Anyway, so she was a Korean Christian teacher and teaching the girls again. Here they look a little happier, right? And this is like a first kind of Western style school, maybe, but they're still wearing the hanbok. All right, almost done. So another Bible class, another photo with a lot of women here, 1917, and last one. This was these were the missionary workers in Daegu. So, yep. Anyway, okay, back to the video, but I don't know. Hopefully that wasn't boring for you guys, but I just thought that was really cool. And again, if you're interested, I can share the link with you as well. Okay, let's go back. All right. Okay, so back to our book. The book skips a lot. Okay, like I said, I was kind of frustrated with the book because I don't know if if you've read it or not, but it basically goes like, late 1800s, the Adams and Baird come to Korea. Then it like just totally skips ahead all the way until like 1950 or something. It skips like 40 years of history and doesn't really explain what's happening, which was very frustrating for me because I wanna teach you guys what happened, but just the information is not there. So a lot of missing information, but here's like the basic idea of what happened. Okay, so 1953 is when it was actually started. So the real KMU. Before our university was made, there was something called Kaesung School, which was started by James Adams. So remember, this is Edward Adams's father, who was James Adams. He started like the first kind of Christian academy. So slowly over time, over a really long time, right? Like over 45 years, finally they said, all right, our school has been growing and growing and growing. It's still just a high school, but I think now we can make the next step to finally make a university. So, just a little, remember the backstory, if you remember, James's brother, and this would be Edward's uncle, was the Beard, right? Beard was successful right away in making Songseo University. So probably this was always his dream, his father's dream, and then now it was Edward's chance to do what his father didn't do, which was to make a university, just like his uncle Beard, who made Songseo University. So, that was kind of their family's dream, and I think he finally was able to achieve it in 1953. So after living in Korea a really long time, he finally was able to do it. So I'm sure he was really moved when our university was finally started. Okay. I didn't find too much information about the Kaesung school. I'm not really sure. I heard that's kind of what started it, and then now there is some other high school. There's no more Kaesung High School, but it changed the name. It's not really important though. The principal of Kaesung High School was a really important guy though, Taeshik. Okay, he was like one of the most important presidents in KMU's history, and he kind of really started the beginnings of it. Okay, so he's a really important guy, Shin Taeshik. He worked very closely with Adams to create KMU. Um, Obviously, Edward probably needed a lot of help, right? Because he was a foreigner in Korea. He probably spoke Korean, but as far as obviously you really need that Korean person who's gonna talk with everybody and get the buildings done and find the people to build it and all that stuff. So Shin Tae-shik, very very important um, in the creation of our school. Okay. Okay, so it took several years to finally get all the approval of the government and get all of the paperwork finished. But finally, the school started in 1956. Okay, the first director of the school was actually an American named Archibald Kemple. He had moved to Korea in 1946, and he had been sent by the church in the United States to help Adams start the school. So he was also working together with Adams and helping him out to finally start it. But he retired after 2 years, and Edward took his place. While Edward Adams was the president of the school, Shin Tae-shik was the vice president, and he was very active in running the university. You know, did a lot of many things. Okay. In 1961, Park Jong-hee took over as the leader of Korea. I'm sure, as you know, but he was a little bit against foreigners. He didn't like foreigners that much, and he passed a law and said that foreigners cannot be the leader of Korean organizations like universities or hospitals or whatever. He said all of this needs to stop. Every Korean big organization must have a Korean person as the president. So I can imagine probably Edwards was really sad at that time. I don't know. I didn't see him write about it, but I could just imagine that must have been a pretty tough moment. You kind of worked your whole life to start the university, and then you were the president, but then you were kind of forced to step down. So that was probably pretty tough. But Shin Tae-shik took over as the president of the school at this time. So while Shin Tae-shik was president of the school, it grew a lot. You have to understand at this time, it was not really considered like a big university. It was still just a college actually at this time. It was like Kmyoung Christian College. I don't exactly know what that means, but obviously it was a lot smaller and there were fewer departments and it was more focused just on Christian things at that time. But eventually, a long time later, in 1978, it finally really became Kmyoung University. So, like before 1978, it was more Kmyoung Christian College, and at this time, it finally became Kmyoung University. Okay, the next president who became president around this time, 1978, was Shin Il-hee. He's still the president now. Uh, it's a little embarrassing, but I was, I thought he is not the president anymore. I thought, like, I saw an email that we have a new president, but I don't know. But I went to the Kmyoung website today and I looked, and he is still the president. Also, I was very curious. Shin Tae-shik, Shin Il-hee. Is this father and son? Like, I tried to find that information. I have no idea. Like, it's almost kind of a little secret. So I don't know if they're hiding this information that this is the father and the son or what. But I tried to look up the family history of our president Shin Il-hee, but I couldn't find anything about his family or whatever. So I know Shin is a common name in Korea, so maybe they're not father and son, but that could be possible, right? I guess maybe he had his son take over. I have no idea. I don't know, but something I was curious about. Anyway, I've met President Shin, very nice and friendly guy. He was a He was a professor of German language. He's very educated man. I think he studied at Princeton in the United States. I have to check that again, but very well educated and also studied in Germany and was a professor of German language. So, smart guy, obviously, great guy. Okay, so after that, the book just gives a bunch of things that happened. I'm not going to go through each one in detail, but I'll just give like an overview of the big things that happened in the university's history. Okay, so one thing was the expansion of the university with Seongso campus in 1978. So I'm embarrassed to say that I've been working at Kmyoung for a couple of years. I always thought that Seongso was the first campus, and Daemyeon campus was the second campus, but I guess Daemyeon campus is the first campus, and then Seongso is the new campus. I did not know that. I have no idea. So that happened in 1978. The book has like a story about how they chose the Seongso and blah blah blah, but I thought that was not that interesting, so I just kind of skipped that. Here is something a little bit interesting. In 1980, there was the Gwangju Uprising. I'm sure you know, right? And there was a call for universities to become democratized. So, like, at this time, Korean people very much loved democracy and they loved voting. And they didn't like how the university president was almost like a Park Chung-hee, like a dictator in their imagination. So at this time, a lot of university presidents kind of stepped down and said, okay, let's just vote to see who's going to be the president of the school. I don't want to have that much power, blah, blah, blah. So for several years, our president, Shinri, he took a break, I guess, and was just teaching at this time. But I'm sure he was involved, but he stepped down. So, Shinri stepped down, and Kim Tae-hwan took over as president until 1986. So, pretty long time he was president, Kim Tae-hwan. After Kim Tae-hwan retired, there was Jung Gil-so, who was president for 2 years until 1988. The book says he was very unpopular with the students, so he stepped down. I don't know what happened. For some reason, they didn't like him. I have no idea what happened. Then Shin Il-hee was made president again, and he's still the president now, as far as I know. Even though I thought we had a new president, but I don't know. I'm confused. Other things that happened. In 1983, Baek-un Science Hall was completed in 1983. Baek-un-gwan. I don't know if you guys have visited the school, right? Because of coronavirus, I'm sure there are a lot of people who maybe have even never been to Keimyung University, which is a little sad. But I've taught in Baek-un-gwan. It looks like it was built in 1983. It's very old, right? I don't know if anybody's been there, but it's a little bit old and a little bit kind of needs to be renewed, I think. Yeongnam Hall, Yeongnam Hall is where they have humanities and some language courses. That was built in 1984. Just a little information. This is when I was born, Ashton, 1984. Wow. Me and Yeongnam Hall are the same age. In 2001, KMU was named one of the top 10 most beautiful campuses in Korea. Our campus is used in many films and dramas. So that's cool. It is beautiful, right? Again, I hope you guys have seen the campus, but it's a very beautiful campus, especially in springtime with all of the flowers. Uh, Very big and beautiful campus. I always work at Songso campus. I still have not been to Daemyeon campus yet, so I want to check it out someday. I guess it's beautiful too. KMU is also famous abroad and has a very large exchange student program. This is something that I was amazed by when I first started working here, just because there are so many foreign students at KMU. I was really surprised. There's like a lot of French students, Vietnamese students, Chinese students, Romanian, Bulgarian, Italian, even a couple Americans, like many foreign students studying at KMU. So that is pretty cool, and I think KMU is a great place if you want to make friends from another country. Unfortunately, obviously, with coronavirus, it's a little difficult now, but it's a good school to make foreign friends because there are a lot. Okay, so I should have shown you a picture. This is really dumb. I didn't show you a picture. Let me show you a picture now. Sorry, guys. Here it is. It's on the back of the book. This. Tabula rasa. Pretty cool. Okay. That's in the Songso administration building. This big white thing called Tabula rasa. So, yeah, in the administration building, there's a large blank slate. Written under it is "Until we have a face." That's kind of the motto of that big blank slate. I just want to give you a little background about tabula rasa, what it means. So tabula rasa is from Latin and it means the blank tabulate. Basically like a blank sheet or a blank piece of paper, if you could think of it like that. There was a psychological theory, a science theory called tabula rasa. It was outdated science now. This is not really related to our school's one, but I thought it's just a little bit of interesting background information. So there was this idea in the 1960s that humans start with a blank slate, and that all of the 50s and 60s, okay, there was this idea that all behaviors were learned from parents and society. So basically, you could teach humans to be good just by behavior, and like we literally start our life with nothing in our mind, and we just learn everything from watching other people. This was the idea of tabula rasa. We later learned that this was actually scientifically not true, because a lot of human behavior is already programmed into us. Like, we have human nature. There are things that humans just do naturally. Also, a lot of behavior is based on genetics as well, like personality and temperament. So before, they believed that you could learn to be shy or you could learn to be outgoing. They had this whole like training psychological theory, but and they didn't believe anything about genetics, or that your parents are a certain way, so you're going to automatically be like that. But we later learned that tabula rasa, in terms of psychology, is not really scientifically sound. But anyway, we can get some positive meaning out of our school's tabula rasa statue, basically. Uh, it can mean something different for everybody, but just for me, what it means is that our future is blank, and we can change our future through hard work. That's what I get when I look at it, but it can mean something to everybody. Okay, we made it through the video, and I am going to tell you about your assignment, okay? So, our book has some questions at the end of each chapter. I want you to try to answer these as best as you can. You don't have to write too much for your answers, just 1 or 2 sentences is fine. Okay, and just try your best. I'm not going to take any points away for bad spelling or grammar and even a wrong answer, but as long as I feel like you have watched the video and you kind of understand the main idea of what's going on, then you will get points for this homework assignment, okay? So here are the 4 questions. I'm going to post this on the website as well. 1, why do you think missionaries came to Korea in the 1800s? What positive things did those missionaries do? Number 3, KMU is famous for its beautiful campus. Do you agree that the campus is beautiful, and what do you like or dislike about the campus? This is tough if you have never visited the campus, but if not, just look at some pictures on Google and then tell me what you think. And then finally, what does tabula rasa mean to you? I shared what it means to me, but does it mean something to you? Okay guys, thank you for watching the video, and I'll see you next week. Bye bye.